Good evening, everybody. Today is Tuesday, June 14th, 2022. The time is now 7:09. I'd like to call this meeting of the Burlington Historic Preservation Commission to order. This time, this meeting is being held hybrid, so on Zoom and in person. And if you have any on Zoom questions, contact Jane Lawson at the number provided, and we can take care of that. On a side note, this is being recorded, so best behaviors. And so, and if you are on the phone, if you press *9, then that will, Jane will tell me that you wish to acknowledge to speak on any of the issues. So at this time, I would like to add a roll call.
Yes, Chair Eulis.
Here.
Vice Chair Pennington is absent. Christina Meinking. Here. Wendy Geis. Here. Russ Van der Mespuler. Just unmute yourself, Russ, when you get...
Here.
Okay. Lori Bryan.
Here.
And Josh Atkins.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. And then I need to have a motion to excuse Vice Chair Pennington. Do I have a motion? All right, do I have a second? Okay.
Second.
All right, let's do
Motion was made by, the audio is hard in here, so we'll just, motion was made by Christina and seconded by Russ. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'll just do roll call.
Okay.
Chair Eulis.
Yes.
Christina Meinking.
Yes.
Wendy Geis.
Yes.
Russ Van der Mespuler.
Yes.
Lori Bryan.
Yes.
And Josh Atkins.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
All right, moving right along. Did everybody on the commission get a chance to review the minutes from May 10th?
You should have two sets of minutes, one from May 4th and one
April
from
12th.
May 10th.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, there it is.
So I'll just scroll
Okay.
through.
Well, so any of the minutes for May 4th, did everybody get a chance to look at them? Okay. Did anybody want to make any changes to them, or that you need to be adjusted? Okay. So do we need to do them separately, approve, or can we
You
put
can
them
do together, unless there's any changes, you don't have to.
Okay. And then the minutes for May 10th, did anybody see any changes that need to be made?
I don't have any.
Okay. All right, so if that's the case, then I need a motion to approve the minutes from May 4th and May 10th.
The moved.
Okay.
Wendy Geis.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second, Lori Bryan.
Okay. Jane, roll call vote, please.
Sure, Chair Eulis.
Yes.
Christina Meinking. Yes. Wendy Geis.
Yes.
Russ Van der Mespuler.
Yes.
Lori Bryan.
Yes.
And Josh Atkins.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. So we have two items on our agenda this evening, and we're going to start with the first one. This is a request by... Wait, are we? You moved it though, didn't you? You see? Oh, wait. Never mind, okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Anyway, pardon. Okay. So our first one is a request by Mr. John East for the Neese family buildings to install vinyl clad double hung windows at the apartment buildings of 624 West Davis Street. So,
Yes, so Mr. Neese is here, and I will, you're welcome to come up to the table.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Yeah, where do I speak?
Right here, it's
Everybody
fine.
can see me.
Right there.
Is that appropriate? Okay. Thank you, sir. And I guess everyone has, I'm John Neese. I live
We're going to
in
swear you in.
Pardon me?
We're going to swear you in first.
Okay.
So you're welcome to sit down. We're really
Okay.
informal.
Okay, sure.
And basically what we do is staff will introduce the item and just go through the quick staff report, and then we'll introduce you.
Okay.
And then you're welcome to address the board. So
Okay.
I'm Jamie Lawson. Anything that I say, I attest is the truth to the best of my ability. Mr. Neese, do you attest that the testimony that you provide is the truth to the best of your ability?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is item number 1. Staff received a request from Mr. Neese to install vinyl clad double hung windows at the apartment buildings located at 624 West Davis Street. The property is located in the local historic districts. As noted in the staff report, this property, as of others, apartment complexes were listed as intrusive in the National Register of Historic Districts, and I kind of define what that is, and also have included that in the binder of information here. Staff has also included the findings of facts associated with the relative materials, the maps, and all of the items that the applicant has submitted along with his major COA. So, Mr. Neese, would you like to describe what you're looking to, what you've applied for, and
Sure.
what you'd like to submit to the HPC?
Sure, thank you. And I guess everyone has seen my letter that addendum that accompanied the application. And I would at the very least like to complete this project on my front building, my first building, but others I'll just have to either retain those windows or purchase some other windows that are compliant at a later date when I have the timing and funds to do those windows. But at the very least, I would like to finish this project whereby I've already purchased the windows. There are many, and I just took a 15 to 20 minute ride around the neighborhood. There are many examples of vinyl windows, both in contributing and non-contributing structures. So I'm in the middle of this project. I would like to complete that project, and I'm ready to do that soon. I have the windows, and I just feel like I should be allowed to do that because there are plenty of examples there already. And they are a big improvement on the property as compared to what is there now. And it's a safer, more viable alternative for the people who live in the properties. And you see the photos there.
Yeah, so I just have up our packet of information. You're welcome to use any of these as examples to describe what you're looking to do.
Well, the top photos there are, of course, the facade of the first building that faces West Davis Street. They're 4 identical buildings there. They've been well maintained. It's on about an acre. And they were built in the late 60s. As I said, they're non-contributing structures. I believe, based on little research I did a long time ago, there was an old fourplex on that property that either burned or was razed for some reason. And then in the late 60s, the Sharp family built these properties, and I bought them from the Sharp family about 20 years ago. Now, I had begun the project. I didn't realize I had to be compliant with since I had a non-contributing structure, but the minute the city person came and told my contractor to stop, he cleaned up and stopped. But these windows are custom made. I ordered them. I duplicated the grid pattern exactly. And they're double hung windows, not single hung windows, just like the ones that have been removed. No storm windows are necessary, so those old metal storm windows, which are not that attractive, will all be gone. So you can see on the left the example of what was there, and on the right what has been replaced. I'm about a half to 2/3 finished with this building. So, and I guess if everyone did read my correspondence, they kind of see what I'm requesting, and I would just like to
Go back up to
complete that project.
And here's what you're.
Yeah, and as I said, I probably spent 20 minutes riding around. There's many examples of vinyl windows and siding. One which is immediately adjacent to my property is completely wrapped in vinyl. It's vinyl windows. And even the First Reformed United Church of Christ probably has 100 vinyl windows on the educational building. I just don't feel like the guidelines as they are being enforced, and I just think they're probably not being enforced because it hasn't even been noticed that there are vinyl, just like I think what I've installed looks better than what was there. So I don't know why they wouldn't have been enforced, except perhaps they just hadn't been noticed. And there are some examples on contributing structures also that have been modified with non-compliant materials. And with more time, I could bring forth even more examples, but I didn't really have time in the morning. I was back here kind of looking into it. I had an email thanking me, a text from a tenant thanking me for the windows, and she felt like it was a much safer alternative for her in case she had to have emergency ingress or egress. So that's my thought. I would like to have all the windows for that building. I mean, that's the only one I plan to modify now, and I would like to move forward quickly to get this done because I've got some tenants that have been served and some not, and I would just feel like I'd like to move forward with the project, and I would appreciate your utmost consideration of this request.
Let's see,
Now, is this a new, I'm reading this, is this some new?
no, this is the section of what I highlighted and included in the binder, that's on the website and went to the HPC members, reference to, it's the National Historic District nomination, and this was done in the 80s. And so it describes, your location,
Okay.
as, what the existing conditions are, very briefly, and then it calls it out as an I, which means intrusive. Mhm. And those are properties which have a definite negative impact on the historical, architectural, and/or cultural characteristics for which the district is significant.
Well, they are traditional in styling, but I understand they're not necessarily sympathetic to the old construction that's in the area, which is very nice.
And then this was just another reference to the apartment buildings and their character as well, and the intrusive impact of the apartments.
So does that mean there are two additional complexes other than mine within this?
There are other references to apartment buildings in the district itself beyond yours.
Well, and I really don't, I feel like what I'm putting in looks better, and I feel like it's not any more intrusive than what's there. There's my site. And if you'll look, there's a little small lot that is landlocked that they use
Here.
yeah, there, bordering the Old Hillcrest School site, and they use my driveway. I've never really seen an easement, but I guess they have an easement by prescription. Now, the former mayor also uses my driveway to access his contributing structure that's to the west of mine. That little building right there was, I think somebody associated with the city owned it, and it was sold to a relative of his about 15 years ago. And that's the building right there that is completely vinyl sided except a little bit of stone on the facade, and every window there is vinyl. And it abuts my property. And the various, and you can see the other addresses that are listed, but the various and sundry others that have similar construction materials that it's never been enforced. And all within the boundaries of the historic district. And I could bring forth more if I had more time, but I just didn't think it was necessary. And I guess in another 50 years, mine will be 100 years old, so I don't know whether that means they won't be intrusive anymore, but they're not the best looking things in the world, but they kind of fit the bill for affordable housing to a degree, which I think is important too. And so, if any questions for me, I'm certainly happy to attempt to answer.
I have one, and this is so I think so. When you bought the property, did the previous owners explain to you that it was an intrusive property in the historic district, or did they say anything? Maybe that I'm just curious because
did they indicate to me that it was in the historic district?
That it would still be to were they aware?
I don't remember that now. I don't remember that they did. Of course, I grew up in Burlington. I know a lot about the neighborhoods, and I part of my growing up. I lived on West Front. But they were two brothers that inherited them. One lived in the Chicago area, one lived in Manassas, Virginia. And I'm not sure they were keyed into what was going on. And I don't think they were particularly getting along well, so they were happy to liquidate the property. And I don't remember that that came up. But of course, that's been 20, 21 years ago. And that's, you know, my memory's not as sharp as it used to be. But I don't remember any sort of conversation about that.
Okay.
But I'm happy for anybody to look at the windows. They're custom made and they are really a good quality window. And with the screen, you know, you really can't tell the make of the exterior surface with the screens on there anyway. And I tried to duplicate the windows as closely as I could. And with the way the markets are now, I think it took me 7 to 8 months to even get the windows in, you know, to deliver to ground, whereby I picked them up and then my contractor started installing.
Any other commission members have questions?
Anybody on Zoom want to?
I have a question.
I do.
Okay, sure. Let Lori then.
You said the windows are custom made.
Correct.
Do you have them already made for the other 3 buildings?
I was doing it in phases. Just as anything I do as time and funds permit. So I have not done anything about the other 3, I'm glad to say. And I suppose as time goes along, I could get windows for those other windows, for those other buildings, if I decided to make a change. But it's not very practical for rental purposes. The others, the vinyl works so much more nicely and they don't require as much maintenance. But I have not, no, I've not moved ahead with that. I just bought the 25 windows for the first building. That's all I've done thus far. I would like to be able at least to complete that project.
Jamie, did the staff approve this application? What was the staff report?
Staff did recommend the approval of this because of the acknowledgement of the characteristic of the building as being intrusive and the way that it was characterized in the National Register. So we've included that as part of our recommendation. I can tell you that I did reach out to Mitch Wilds at the state regarding this issue, and I can just read to you so you understand what his response was. And he said, I have discussed your question with staff and have the following thoughts to offer. Regarding the National Register of Historic District nomination characterizing the apartments as intrusive, this term is a holdover from the early nomination in 1984. At that time, surveyed properties in a National Register district were determined to be from best to least as pivotal, contributing, fill, non-contributing, or intrusive. This has been boiled down through the years to contributing and non-contributing. What had been intrusive, a property which adversely affected the significance of the district, is now non-contributing, a property which does not add to the significance of the district. Although we do not encourage a commission to rely on the National Register nomination for guidance, the commission could simply treat the intrusive apartments as they would any other non-contributing property in the local district. Without accessing the current guidelines, Christie took a little dive into the newly proposed draft design standards and found on page D4, when alterations are proposed for a building, they should be much more carefully considered for a contributing building than for a non-contributing building. However, alterations that make a non-contributing building even less contributing, less compatible should be avoided. The new design standards actually do mention intrusive on page D5. This concept considers non-contributing buildings as having a neutral visual impact upon the character of the historic area when intrusions have a clearly negative impact that dilutes and undermines the visual cohesiveness of the area. This apparent differentiation between non-contributing and intrusive may open up the avenue for some discussions as to whether installation of non-contributing replacement windows on an intrusive building would be more I think he meant incongruous, with the special character of the district. And he goes on to say, for consideration of the COA, the commission may benefit from rehearing the special character of the local historic district as they determine these replacement windows in an intrusive building, as they determine if these replacement windows in an intrusive building is indeed incongruous to the district. So that was his response.
May I ask another question? Was there any feedback from any property owners within the district
Staff hasn't received any calls or emails on your application.
Okay.
I did see that there was one person, there were 2 people in the audience. It looks like there's just one now. So we'll open it up at some point for members of the public to also ask questions.
Good, thank you.
And I know Christina had, Lori, did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Can I just share a thought about it?
Sure.
I know we haven't taken a vote, but can I go ahead and just share a thought about it? Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay. I read all this stuff about it being intrusive, which I thought was offensive. That offended me, because I'm like, those apartments aren't intrusive. I know we have to take a vote, but this is just my thought. And with us trying to get the new standards out there, I'm thinking of, a kind of a compromise. The very front building, to repair, if possible, the windows on the front side of the front building, so that they are still all the wooden. Then put the other vinyl clad, the windows in the other behind the buildings that you don't see from the road. I don't know, that's just a thought. And these departments, even though the National Historic said, I think the very reason, I don't, in my opinion, they're not intrusive, but that's just me. But there's, for people that can't buy a place in our historic district, may want to rent and can rent very affordable, nice little 1-bedroom apartment there, and be like, oh, I'm living in the historic district. I just feel like it would, with the shape of the windows, it would add more value toward getting people to come to live there and, educate people on the historic district, and maybe one day they could buy a house in the historic district. Did that make any sense?
And I think people do like the streetscape there. There are people that appreciate being able to live in that district. I've had, and they are affordable 1-bedroom apartments. They're renting from $550 to $650 depending on the interior conditions. Some have been renovated and some not. So to be able to keep them affordable, I have to make affordable improvements, and these windows are that. And I think there's people now understand the real estate is going up in Burlington, the rents have gone up, and people are being squeezed. But yet mine stay totally full and have very little turnover because I do rent them reasonably, and I can't do that unless I make reasonably priced improvements. So, and then really the windows that I've installed, you can see from the pictures, unless you're going to go up and scrutinize, and you're not going to be able to tell the difference. And of course, energy-wise, they're better. You see from left-hand photos of the old windows, right-hand of the new. And I apologize for putting the cart before the horse, but I did, and I didn't realize, since they were non-contributing, that I had to have them approved. And I feel like someone that lives approximately to the property probably called the city, and if they did, I wish they'd come forward. I'd like to hear what they have to say, because I don't think there would have been any notation to the city unless someone saw the contractor out there with the windows, going in. So if they have a bone to dig, I wish they'd come forward now. Who's never tipped off the city?
I have a question for Mr. Neese. This is Wendy Geist. Did you investigate, because I know I live in a historic home that has a new addition in the back, and there are wood windows that were installed that are double pane. So did you investigate any type of other, wood?
I didn't, and it really didn't. I know that they were starting to manufacture it. It didn't occur to me to do it. I had bought windows by this company several times. I liked them. And I really should have started window replacement a good while ago, but I just procrastinated, and I had other expenses that were more necessary. And I just hadn't. I know they're available at a cost, but any investor's got to look at the bottom line too. So, and I felt like these were entirely sufficient, and I still do. But I didn't do that, no, to truthfully answer your question.
Okay, I really like Lori's idea about having wood windows on that front street facing facade, and then possibly having vinyl on the others that's where it's not facing the street.
On just the one building.
I mean, this is another opinion. Whatever improvements you do, it's gonna look great, and I don't think your apartments are a make or break or buy a house in a historic district.
And I
would pick up fine with the rest of them. It's like, oh, apartments, that's so nice. I never thought that they were an eyesore by any means. I've had 2 friends that's lived there, and I've loved them the whole time.
Well, and a lot of well-known people have lived there. I believe David Huffman, who's the city attorney, and his wife lived there when they first married. And there have been other people, older ladies, older gentlemen, that have lived there. A couple of people have lived there 20 years. I've got 2 tenants right now that have lived there 20 plus. Two were still there that were there when I bought them 21 years ago. So I'd like to follow with the city recommendation, really, because I think they agreed to allow it. But I guess it's up to a vote. I don't know how y'all handle these matters. I've not had to do this before.
Would that be an option for you to investigate some of the double pane wood windows for the front and then use those on facades that are not facing the street?
In other words, are you saying remove the windows that I've put in and put them in the other buildings? Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The vinyl ones, yeah.
Well, I guess I could. I'd rather do that than waste them, but that's going to be more money spent. And I wasn't quite ready to do windows in the other buildings, but I'd have to. In other words, are you saying purchase wooden windows? I've got 8/8 windows here, panes. Purchase wooden windows for all the front. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 windows. That's half of the windows that are in the building. I think I bought 25. Remove what I've got there, put wooden windows on the front of this. The others are fine, and then I can take these out and put them in another building. Is that what you're saying? You're fine with vinyl as I go back, building 2, 3, and 4?
Yes, I mean, I thought that was what Lori suggested. I thought that was a great idea.
Well, of course, the more I spend, the more I've got to charge for rent, so that does make them less affordable, but y'all are the committee, I'm not. And it takes so long to get things in, I'm kind of mismatched now, and it'll be another 6, 7, 8 months before I can get more windows.
Jamie, can you scroll up so we can see the, yeah.
So I guess the thing I would say is that when I look at this and I think about where those apartments sit and how they fit into the district would in any way negatively impact, you know, like the overall historic district or anyone's property value. It's one thing if you've got one of the major homes in the neighborhood that really fits within the neighborhood, if you're going to start doing things like this, but it's already a non-contributing structure. I guess I'm saying from my standpoint, I wouldn't lose any sleep over having those vinyl windows in the apartment building.
Well, I mean, that's the practical approach. I mean, I think that's a very practical approach. I do see, and I've documented, non-compliant materials on historic structures that are all about. And I don't think it's appropriate to selectively enforce these guidelines. And that's kind of what's happening here. But
Actually, the question relevant is about client.
I think for me, I know it's a non-contributing structure, but from my perspective, the adding vinyl windows to it actually kind of makes it worse from the street view. That keeping, you know, the wood, because I mean, are those original from 1960 or 1960s?
yeah, they're the original windows. You can see how bad they look. And they're broken, they're unsafe, some of the sashes fall. I had one lady injure her thumb because the sash fell. A couple of them places have bricks holding them up. So
There's also the option of having them, the wood ones repaired.
well, I looked into that, and really my contractor said these springs are shot. I really can't buy them anywhere. They're not the old ropes and weights where you can kind of open up the open trim and replace those. It's more of an internal track and a spring, and he didn't think he could get those springs. It would probably be easier if they were from the 1920s, and you can just open up that trim and replace the ropes and weights.
Right.
But it's kind of in between there from 1967 to 1968. So I don't think they're objectionable because I'm the owner, so that's my opinion.
Christina, I know you have
I have a couple of questions.
and then I'll get to the person that's raising their hand, so.
I'm sorry I didn't think to ask you this sooner, but the other examples that were listed in the application of vinyl windows and others, were any COAs put forward for those? Were they pre-creation of the district?
Yeah,
Trying to get a sense of how those.
Right, so some of those properties, I went through your list, and some of those properties are not in the historic district, they're outside of the district.
Well, now I took my list, my map with me.
Yeah, I don't know, I punched in some, not all of them, but there were a couple. And then I went through our spreadsheet, matched it up to the other properties, and I couldn't find a record of a COA being applied for or approved. Now, that doesn't mean our records aren't 100% complete, but I couldn't see that there had been approved COA or an application associated with them. So I can't really comment on how they were installed and
You mean
whether
the other properties?
the other.
Was that your question? I
Yes.
didn't
So
understand your question.
the other properties that you had hopefully listed in the application.
Right.
I was
So my
very
assumption is
interested
that they were either installed, pre the establishment of the district. That would be my guess, versus just having them installed and not going through a
It was
process.
never noted by anyone.
Correct.
And those Shadowwood condominiums are in the historic district, right? On the corner there, Hill Street, there are multiple units that have vinyl windows, multiple. And I know.
What address are you referring to?
I'm sorry?
Which addresses are you referring to?
Oh, man, let's see. It's there on the corner of the northwest corner of, they used to be apartments and they modified them condominiums. Is it 530? They're probably, they're the northwest corner of, that's
I know
hard.
what you mean, I can't think of the other.
You know where I'm talking about?
514 Peel?
520? Was that West Front? Right across the street from 728 West Front. I think that's the corner.
So the apartments that are on the corner of West Front and Peel Street,
Yes.
those are in the historic district.
Are.
They are.
And they're multiple units. And they have vinyl siding on a lot of them, the trim pieces, the sections.
My feeling is those are probably also referred to as the other ones that are
intrusive, yeah. Well, intrusive is not a very
that's
attractive word,
and
but
let me just say that is not a staff or Burlington characterization of properties.
And I respect the historic district. I think it's beautiful, and I think it's basically a good thing. And I know people are volunteering their time, and I'm appreciative of that. But even though I don't call my apartments intrusive, and I know that's kind of an obsolete, archaic term now, but they are certainly non-conforming. And I just don't think anybody is really going to know unless they are real curious and it's just go up and touch. To me, they look a lot better than what's there, and they're a lot safer.
Another question I had is if in the survey that, I can't think of it. My brain doesn't work anymore.
The National Register?
Not the National Register, but the one that we just had the survey sort of evaluation of potential areas and structures and spaces to include. Was there any comment on this building?
That I'd have to look and see.
I'm sorry, I don't think of this.
That's okay. I can try to pull that up while while we're getting there. And I know, was there any other questions while?
I had a third one.
Okay.
And I lost it. It'll come back. So basically, as far as we know, there is no precedent for this type of.
Not that I could find that something
That's
went in
been
front of the
recorded.
HPC. Like I said, our records going back are less complete. But, and let me just say to the person who is, Michelle, we see your hand raised and we will get to you, okay? Thanks for your patience.
Do any other commission members? Do y'all have any other questions or comments before I open it to the public? Okay.
Is it all right if I then call on, and I'm going to continue looking, but.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to call on Michelle, and I will promote her to a panelist and allow her to speak, so she'll come in.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question. At one of the recent HPC meetings where discussions were regarding the new standards.
She's not giving testimony.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
That's okay. There was discussion regarding the development of the new standards. In a recent meeting, the discussion was about the difference between vinyl windows and vinyl clad windows. When I read the application, it says vinyl clad. So my question for Mr. Neese is, are the frames and mullions of the windows wood and the window is clad with vinyl? Or is it 100% vinyl window? Because the new standards leave some room for the vinyl cladding over wood.
I don't really know the quick answer to that, and I don't want to answer it erroneously. I, of course, have seen the windows. I don't know what's on the inside. It's like a Oreo cookie. I mean, I don't know that. I mean, I kind of used the term vinyl clad. I didn't mean to use that erroneously. I've always heard that term, and I felt like that's what they were, but I don't know what's in the center. I really don't. And appearance-wise, I don't know that matters, but I don't know, really.
Are the mullions permanently fixed, or are
Yes,
they removable?
they are. No, I do not want mullions that are falling out. They are permanently affixed between the two panes of glass. Permanently.
I see.
They
Thank you.
absolutely are. They
That
are
was my
not,
question.
they are not grids that will be falling out because I can't stand that. And they're nice,
Thank
they're nice windows.
Is there anybody in the, John, want to say anything?
I just had a comment about one of the, who's the lady in the top left? Wendy's suggestion about moving the windows from the front to around the side. I do have a window and vinyl company that I've done a lot of replacement. It's not that easy a lot of times in the older structures. It is custom measured, and windows are a certain size for that opening. So newer structures, you can pretty much buy a standard size, but that's just, it may not be as easy for Mr. Neese to just take those out and put them in another building. They possibly may work, but it may be a coin toss as well.
I understand, thank you.
But that's just, I just wanted to bounce that off of her suggestion, but, you know, my opinion, I think what he's done looks pretty good compared to the one on the left, the original. But
And they are not the cheapest windows on the market. They're good, they're not single hung. Both sashes are active, which is the way the ones are that are there. You can spend less money and get single hung windows. And I didn't, they're double hung. And so that's what I have.
Christina, to answer your question, I don't see a specific reference to those apartments in the survey.
And was there any, are there any other townspeople that are here to ask questions or?
I don't see any other, besides Ms. Cobrick, I don't see any other attendees on the call, and there's no other.
Well, I think whomever reported it doesn't care to weigh in now. I don't know why, but it must have been important to them at the time. But that doesn't appear that they're attending.
Is there any further discussion from commission members or the applicant?
I don't think I have any.
But thank you for your consideration.
See anybody raising their hand?
No.
So I can proceed with the findings of fact.
You can.
So I'm going to, with the findings of fact, I'm not going to read them out, but I think, I don't really stand out, but they're pretty self-explanatory. All right, so before we approve the findings of fact, did any commission members want to add to them? Or do they have any discussion about them as they relate to this application?
I remember my other question, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Which is fair on this. So are we considering this as a retroactive COA for this one building, or are we considering also, or together?
Well,
with
this
that,
application is for the entire
the
complex,
entire complex?
my understanding.
Well, that wasn't my intention, but it is just one address, 624 West Davis Street, buildings 1, 2, 3, and 4. I do not have any immediate plans to do windows in building 2, 3, and 4. I probably would like to at some point. If you can approve that, then I will know that. The windows are, 55 years old, so they're not going to last forever, and I've been told I can't repair what's there. But just like with any person, I do things as I have the time and funds to do it. I guess that would be up to the city. If I get a blanket approval for all of it,
Well, the COAs, if approved, are good for 6 months. You can always request an extension of time after that, but they're not an indefinite approval. So
Okay.
yeah.
well, I mean, of course, with this, you know, I couldn't, even if I was moving ahead with building 2 or 3, which I don't intend to right now, I couldn't even get a window in 6 months. I guess there could be some, you know, immunity for that time frame, I don't know, but I certainly don't want to do anything without full written approval, because I don't want to have to do this again.
Yeah, I guess it was my understanding, and maybe I misunderstood in your application, was that you were applying for the entire complex, but...
Well, it really wasn't, but what you're saying is even if I was approved it now, it's only for 6 months, which would give me time to finish the first building, but I'd have to come back to the table because I couldn't even get windows within 6 months if I intended to do the other buildings, which I don't right now, but if I did, I'd have to come back anyway because I couldn't even get windows that quickly.
Staff is, I mean, if your application is approved, staff will always work with you in terms of getting an extension of time. The question, I guess, is what your intention is, whether it's the, you know, the entire complex or if it's just that one building. And it sounds like there's some other suggestions on the table pertaining to that, so.
Well, the president was really just one building.
Okay.
If you want to blanket approve it, that's fine, but that wasn't my intention.
Okay.
And it sounds like there may be some relaxing of standards too. Is that, I heard some discussion, and I tried to get on that meeting on my phone that was a week or 2 ago, and I really couldn't hear well, so I just kind of got off of it. But is that the case?
The city has received a grant to update the historic district standards. I can't say that, so there's a draft that went to the HPC last week for recommendation. The document will then go to the Planning and Zoning Commission next for a recommendation, and then it will go to the City Council. They are the body who would ultimately adopt the new document. Since this is an overlay district, it's a zoning overlay district, it's a legislative matter. So I can't say that in general there's a relaxation. There's a lot of improvements, and the standards right now are 30 years old. So whenever you look at, you know, modifying and altering and updating standards, there's things that we do to look at, you know, making things clearer, making them more user friendly, using more modern.
Well, 30 years is a long time. I
Yeah.
understand. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Are there any final questions from commission members or anybody? Okay. So, I guess findings of fact. And I guess from my earlier question, are there any additions to the findings of fact that any commission members want to add or? Anything, so I assume that's we're all good on that. Okay, so I need a motion to approve the findings of fact as stated in the application.
Christina?
Okay, do I have a second?
Second, Russ.
Okay. Will you?
Sure. Chair Ulis?
Yes.
Christina Monking?
Yes.
Wendy Geis?
Yes.
Russ Vander Maskelyk?
Yes.
And Lori Bryan?
Yes.
Okay. So now so I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the application as stated, unless we want to add anything, and I guess we'll just go ahead and approve it for the whole. So we're going to, or which is easier to approve.
I guess, why don't you ask for a motion and see what a motion may be from the HPC.
Okay. So I put out a motion to go ahead and.
I don't think you can make the motion, no.
So anybody? So I need a motion to approve. Or approve or deny.
Or if there's an alternate.
This is Russ. I move to approve as written.
Did Lori want to formally suggest? Sorry, Lori, I don't know if you can hear me. I wasn't sure, Lori, if you wanted to formally suggest your amendation. or idea?
I can't hear Christina, she's breaking up.
Yeah, Christina has her mask on, so you might be difficult to hear her. She's asking you, Lori, if you are looking to make a motion or a modification to the motion based on what you were saying before.
No, I'm good with it. I mean, we can just move ahead with it as it is. I mean, I'll second Russ's motion.
Roll call then.
So we're approving, is that what we're doing?
There's a motion on the table to approve the application as is, and it would just be the front then.
I'm satisfied with that, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
And so there's a motion and a second on the table.
Okay. Yes, we do a roll call there?
Yes. So Chair Ulis,
Yes.
Christina Monking,
No?
Wendy Geis,
No.
Russ Vandermask-Peeler,
Yes.
and Lori Bryan.
Yes.
Okay, so your
Oh,
motion.
grab Josh.
Oh, Josh, where is Josh?
Is he trying?
Oh, here he is. Hold on. Josh, are you still on? I see him.
Did you say Josh or Russ?
Josh.
Okay.
You, Josh.
We don't hear you. Unmute, please. There you go. I don't hear you. Can you test your mic? I see you nodding and shaking your head. Go ahead. We just heard you. You have to unmute though.
I'll vote to approve.
Okay. So your application has been approved.
As I requested.
Yes.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to start with my contract until I get a written approval. Can you send or email that?
Well, your application, I guess, let's just get clarification on this, is based on the work that you have just completed.
Right.
And you want to continue that
Correct.
on the front, on the rest of that one building?
One building, I have bought windows for the one
So what
building.
you will now do is you will get a COA from the city. I will issue you a one-page document.
Okay,
That's the approval. You'll get a yellow card as well that you can have displayed in the window while
Okay.
the work is being done.
okay.
Your COA is good for 6 months, but you can also ask for an extension of time if you need more than 6
Well,
months.
that would be no problem with
But
this
I would-
building because I have all the windows and they're stored, the
Sure.
remainder of the windows. So
Yeah,
I will be able to move ahead based upon the contractor's schedule.
yeah, and I would display the COA,
Okay.
the yellow card, as you're doing the work.
And will you email me that? I mean, I guess you'll send me the yellow card or do I need to come
You can
up
come
with
here
it?
and pick it up.
Okay, and I might get the contractor to do that. But you'll email me or mail me the other approval.
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
You'll get that in an email, and you can get both the hard copy and the yellow card.
Yellow card by email too, or just?
No, the yellow card,
Okay, he can get that.
it's too large for me to.
Thank you, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for doing that. And I apologize if, I felt like all the properties I listed here were in the historic district. I missed one, it was just my error.
No, it's
I didn't intend to,
That's fine.
because I had my map with me when I was riding around. Thank you again, and
All
I'll
right.
take my seat over here.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next item, which is item number
I'm
2.
sorry.
And you're, Mr. and Mrs. May, you're welcome to come to the table as well. And I'll just start by introducing the item.
I'm sorry. Well, I think that's the best decision, thank you.
So this is for 612 West Front Street. Mr. and Mrs. May are here. They are requesting a demolition of the structures, and I added structures because there's the garage in the back and the primary residential structure at 612 West Front Street. This is the property that had a fire. Staff has included the findings of facts associated with this application and the relative supporting materials and maps. We are also recommending approval for this application as well. So again, staff is on the record to indicate that the information that we provide is the truth to the best of our ability. Mr. and Mrs. May Do you also attest that the information that you provide tonight is the truth to the best of your ability?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. So, so you've heard staff and you've heard this prior application. So basically now it's your time to present any information that you would like to the HPC and the public regarding your request.
We haven't rehearsed this at all. Who's going first? Todd, first of all, from an emotional standpoint, the family was in the home, suffered a fatality. So first and foremost, that is the most heartbreaking part of this. They're a family that have been in for us for years. Exactly the number of years it was.
Ever since we owned it, they was there. I think they were there 7 years prior to us owning it, and we probably had it for 12 to 13 years.
Right. So that being said, you know, it wasn't just loss of a structure per se, but a loss of a human life. So again, that's the emotional part of it. So we had to navigate that carefully, in that there were a lot of emotions that were running high for a while, and we had to figure out you know, she didn't die instantly, so that in itself was very emotional. But so, and then again, for different purposes like insurance and so forth, we had to give that time. So I would like to first of all, you know, apologize for the way that the structures look for the time that's been there. But again, we've had to go through a lot of processes to make sure that we handle everything in accordance to, first of all, the family that was there, and also for different business purposes. So at this time, you know, we do think, after evaluating the property and what the viable options are, we think that the best thing for the historic district is to demo the property and make it a green space or a vacant lot.
Yeah, pretty much. I agree with what Jay is saying, that we've definitely not went through any situation like this before. We've been in the rental property business for 30 years now, and this was definitely a difficult situation, and we have been very aware of surrounding neighbors and community, and I definitely, you know, we feel bad about the situation, but definitely we feel bad as well, and I apologize for, you know, the neighbors that's having to deal with this, because but you know, it's kind of like a hand that we didn't want this to happen ourselves. So, but we had to take things slowly for a reason. But I definitely would have wanted this cleaned up a long time ago. But just the process of how this is having to go. But we're ready to move forward and make it a memory of the past.
Are you on, before I ask questions, are you on?
No,
I didn't want to interrupt you.
No.
So I guess my two questions is, obviously, yes, that was a very, I mean, I think you can see the smoke from downtown Burlington. So I guess my thing is there a way, you know, since part of that structure can be saved, and by saved I don't mean the inside, but something like the siding, to retain some of its historical part that can be saved by Preservation Burlington and used in something future.
The vine, it's
This
actually
fine?
vinyl
No,
siding.
okay, let's try that. Also, about once it's demolished, will the lot be like completely like green? There won't be any, you know, just
No,
like.
it will be taken, everything will be removed from the site, so.
Okay, I had to ask, so.
So are you asking if it's going to be greenscape? Or
Yes, like it's.
Well, I mean, I don't. Maybe I'm overstepping.
I'm just thinking, like, you know.
No, I mean, my intention at this point is to demolish flat lot, sell
down, some people just, they tear it down and call it a day. I guess my thinking is, well, at least until you sell it, will it just look like a vacant lot that won't be like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
No, we're not going, I mean, if you're asking like benches and stuff like that, no, we're not looking to do that.
I was just wondering about reseated, since it's one of the.
Oh,
One of the
definitely, yes.
guidelines,
Yeah, I mean,
Issue five.
right, again, Todd and I haven't really
Yeah,
went that
we'll
far,
see
but
straw or, you
that
know,
we would make it to
still
where
maintain the
it's
yard or whatever.
grass, like,
Yeah.
you know,
So we're not looking for a park, we just want to make sure
yeah,
it's not.
it's just like, you know, how
like-
vacant lots sometimes sit there and they just become so, you know, being in this neighborhood, that's all I want,
Right.
and that's,
Yes.
that
and
is.
I do, I mean, I would, you know, the neighbors that are there, it would be wonderful if they would, one of those would like that, because if I were in the historic district and I lived on either side of it, I would personally want that property. I would, to do whatever with it. I think it's valuable to somebody that loves living in the historic district, and there's not that many vacant lots, I don't think. Again, I'm not an expert in this, so I would think that that would be a lot that somebody that would want to build, it would be, you know, maybe interesting to somebody. So hopefully that would work out to where a structure that is put there would actually, you know, add to the overall, with the new standards maybe going into place, it might be a great thing for everybody. So.
Yeah, that was just my, that's what I meant, sorry if I didn't phrase it.
No, that is, no.
I mean, as far as, I know the house was remodeled prior to us owning it, and I myself have not seen anything that was historic, like manels or anything like that.
It's probably damaged anyway, so,
Yeah.
repair stuff. Okay, I was just wondering about the lot, just, you know, thinking of until, if you sell it or whatever, it will just look.
No, in my
Hopefully it'll
opinion,
look a lot better than what's going on now.
right, hopefully just be taking everything down and remove, and then you'd be able to put and reseed grass there to it's a lot. Because again, if we choose to sell that, we want it to be in a fashion that someone will buy it as well, so.
Answers my question. Thank you. Do any commission members have any questions?
Everybody's shaking their heads, I don't see anybody raising their hands
Oh, there's one
or
person.
unmuting, and for the commission members, and
Oh, okay.
so staff has not received any calls or inquiries subsequent to the notification of this. We've gotten calls in the past regarding the status, and there's no members, there is one member of the audience. Do you have any questions for the applicants? Sir, Mr. Neese?
Me?
Yes,
No, I don't.
okay.
I have two.
Okay.
I don't know if that has a professional. Are you planning to make a record of, I know that this is difficult given I live down the street, I used to live 2 doors down, so I'm very well aware of the situation, but are you planning to make a record of the structure in the capacity that at least has survived? I'm not like go in and document the interior, but I'm just thinking about the findings of fact for G1, a record of the structure prior to demolition, photographs, other documentation to describe architectural features, important landscape features. Is that part of your plan before you demo?
To be honest with you, I wouldn't even know where to start. So as far as documenting what is there before the structure is taken down,
Yeah, the exterior.
I'm not even capable of doing that. Like I would not be versed in even documenting that historically.
Does city staff or does planning have, I feel like I saw this in the guidelines somewhere, some opportunities for assistance with at least photographic documentation, nothing else?
Let me see what the standards say. I mean, there clearly could be pictures that would be taken from the outside of the structure, and some of those are included in the packet. I have been out to the site, you know, it's been a while, but I don't know, based on the condition of the structure now, if it would be safe to go inside.
I'm not saying inside at all, no, I'm just saying it's.
I mean, I guess what Christina is asking, if there can be specific pictures taken to help, you know, document the structure, and just for record-keeping purposes, as part of, you know, just that
Right, and I guess I'm asking,
that property.
Is she asking us to do it or someone from your?
well, but let's pause for a second. The pictures that we have there are the pictures that were taken. So what other pictures will we be needing from that?
Are there specific things, Christina, that you would be,
But I hope we get, like, I mean, maybe it's just because they're in the application, but I would hope that we could get slightly clearer ones for permanent.
do you have those digital?
And there's the outbuilding, and there's, I mean, I just feel like.
In other words, I guess what she's asking for are larger pictures that might be more visible so that somebody could, you know, point to something on the property. And maybe that's something that we can work with you on.
And I mean, I would be open if you guys want to send a photographer over there and take pictures if you want to. I mean, I'm completely okay with that.
Right now, there are 2 exterior pictures in this application. There might be more that exist, but we only have those 2, and they're at least in the application and the resolution. So I would hope that we could,
What about resolution grounds? Are they able to?
I don't know. I'm not associated.
I mean, if we have permission from the property owners, someone can go out. We're not professional photographers either,
Right.
but we can.
Absolutely. I mean,
Absolutely.
if you guys, you know, because surely, you know,
And,
we,
you know, our concern is just safety and.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know what you're looking for if you want to go take those pictures, and you're welcome to do that. Now, you know, we would caution anyone from going inside for liability.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even stand on the porch or anything like
No,
that.
and I'm not suggesting that, to be very clear too.
And that's fine. Again, Ty and I are completely fine if you all want to, or have somebody specifically to look at things that would be of historical value or whatever. I wouldn't even know how to tell a photographer what to be looking for, honestly. So
I think it's just some documentation that it ever existed, even in this state, unfortunately, in which it exists at this moment, because otherwise there's nothing.
right.
And it is part of the standards for demolition. We've asked it of everybody, so this is not specific to y'all.
No, that's fair. That's fair, and that's what we provided. You know, or the pictures that we had. So
Yeah, I don't see anything in terms of anything besides the findings, of the information that I provided in the findings of facts regarding specifics of who could take pictures, but we can certainly work with the maze on getting some pictures just for the record.
okay, that's fine.
I might interject too that the insurance claims person may have 100 pictures.
Yeah, and that would be fantastic.
Pardon me?
That would be fantastic.
I mean, they could maybe contact him and see how.
Christina, do you have any other questions?
I have one more about trees, if any trees are coming down as part of the demolition.
Yes,
plan.
ma'am.
Could you share with us which ones?
I think there's 2 in the front, and both of those will be coming.
And they were damaged in the fire as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Any others to the back of the lot or?
No. I think it's the ones up front.
This one here, you can see,
Yeah, it's very
That one,
clearly like.
and the one to the right,
there's
there,
another.
that's the chimney of the house.
I'm not sure if there's any other shown in here.
Go back down, please. Yeah. Right, no, that's back. It's just to the
I mean,
right.
there's this tree here on this, that's on your property or is it on the adjacent property? That's on the right side?
I think that's on the right side of
Yeah.
the White House, their building.
Okay.
That is it for me.
Okay, I'll go back to the commission members just to see if anybody has any additional questions, and then we'll go to the one member of the audience on the Zoom call who has her hand raised. Anybody else on the commission? I'm not seeing any hands raised or, okay, Michelle Colbert, we're gonna allow you to speak again. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
All right.
A couple of questions, mostly for the commission. Were there any zoning requirements that this property be secured since the fire? There's been no fencing, no boarding up, nothing. And it's been a danger in the neighborhood, besides being a terrible eyesore. But there's never been any security to keep people, kids, pets, wildlife, anything from going in there. Is that in the code? If it isn't, could we, is it up to us residents to ask the planning and zoning to add that to code?
Yes, so it's not really a zoning issue. It would be more of a housing code issue, in my opinion, which also, would fall under code enforcement. So what I would suggest, and I know that the Mays have been in contact with Chris Marlin and also Russell Williams, our Director of Inspections, and Chris Marlin, who's our Chief Code Enforcement Officer. What I would ask, I guess, as a follow-up, Michelle, to your comments were, how quickly do you anticipate applying for the demo permit and moving the process forward?
Quickly.
Like this was the last piece, I guess.
Yeah, so again, this is the first time we've ever had to go through a process like this.
Mm-hmm.
So we will take your lead in what the next step is and move this along. So we want this to move as fast as we can.
I mean, I would suggest, assuming everything moves forward, and I don't see any reason why it would not, and for us to delay it. But what I would suggest is, getting the demo permit in as quickly as possible, but to also speak with both those professionals, Chris Marlin and Russell Williams, and whether or not they're going to have a recommendation to have some sort of, the silt fence or something temporarily installed to ensure that there aren't any trespassers coming onto your property.
Well, there's been some time lapse, as Michelle recognizes, but so at this juncture, I don't want to.
During the demo process,
Right.
You're also not going to want people to get onto your property as well.
Right. So I guess, again, this is sort of, we would lean to the city for advisement on that. So it's not my decision to make.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, to reach out to those guys who actually would be the ones to handle more of the demo process and the code issues as well. So
Will they be involved? I would hope so. Or who would be apply?
your next step would be to apply. The next step would be to apply through our permit process for a demo permit, which we can assist you
Okay.
with.
All right.
That's something that we're able and ready to do.
Mm-hmm.
And Jamie, the other question I have is this being done by professional contractors who are going to demolish and remove it in one fell swoop, or is this being done ad hoc with some things going one day and some other things going another day?
This is a private application, so it's not a city mandated demolition. I'm assuming the Mays have contractors and professionals that they're going to be working with. So I can't speak to the time frame. I would imagine just seeing some of the other buildings that have come down on Maple Avenue recently. Buildings can come down fairly quickly. This is not a large property. So, and considering the state that the structure's in, I wouldn't imagine that it's going to take several days to have it removed, but that's not my forte. So I'm assuming you guys have somebody lined up and ready to go.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
Thank you, Jamie.
Of course.
Michelle, what was your last name again? I didn't catch that.
Koebrich, Koebrich.
Okay. May I ask, do you live close by in the historic district?
I live at 715 West Front Street.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I don't see any other. Any other attendees or any other questions or comments. So unless there's anything that you guys else want to add, no. Go ahead.
All right, so So with the findings of fact, I think, do we need, anybody want to add anything to the findings of fact? Or are we all good on that?
I don't have anything.
Can we add just what they've stated about, since it wasn't in the application itself, I want to make sure we get it on the record, about the lot will be reseeded, and that only the 2 large trees in the front that have been damaged from fire will come down.
Okay, did you guys hear that? So Christina is adding to the findings of facts that the applicants have agreed that the property will be reseeded, and that their application also includes the removal of the 2 large trees in the front that have been damaged as part of the fire.
And that they've given permission to
And
staff.
that they've also given permission to staff to take photos of the exterior of the structures.
From a safe distance.
Right.
What's the process, Jamie, that, once we do this, that it will be a buildable lot there again? I mean, once that structure comes down, can they say, no, since that building's gone, we can't?
No, I mean, so no, this would be, if it is a non-conforming lot that somebody could rebuild, or apply for a new COA for new construction. And just depending upon whoever was interested in building, then there may be some, I haven't looked at it in terms of setbacks and zoning, so
You just have to go by today's standard.
it would have to go by today's standards, but there's also a section of our Unified Development Ordinance that addresses non-conforming lots. So, for example, like if the lot doesn't meet the minimum lot size area, that's going to be acceptable, provided that they meet the other dimensional setbacks, sides and fronts. And there also is sections of the UDO that address kind of the average setback within a street as well. So, yeah. So the findings of facts was there a motion and a second for that?
I didn't get,
Okay.
I think I asked, but then,
Okay, so we'll go back to that.
so I need a motion to approve the findings of fact,
With the addition.
well, with the additions.
Okay, that was moved by Russ.
Josh, did you?
Josh.
Okay.
Josh, okay, thank you.
Alright, do I have a second?
When you guys second?
Okay. Jamie, will you do a roll call?
Yes, Chair Ulis,
Yes.
Christina Monking,
Yes.
Wendy Geis,
Yes.
Russ Peeler,
Yes.
Lori Bryan,
Yes.
and Josh Atkins.
Yes.
Okay.
So then this is the application to demolish.
Mhm.
So I need a motion to approve the application.
So moved. Josh Atkins.
Okay. Do I have a second?
When you guys second?
Okay. Jamie, will you do a roll call, please?
Yes, Chair Ulis,
Yes.
Christina Monking,
Yes.
Wendy Geis,
Yes.
Russ Peeler,
Yes.
Lori Bryan,
Yes.
and Josh Atkins.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank y'all.
Thank
I'm
y'all.
sorry y'all had to go through this.
No,
I know
well-
that y'all ready to.
I appreciate the patience and the expertise from Jane especially through the process. She's been great to work with. And I look forward to making that a place that'll be remembered for going forward for the right reasons. But again, you know, not only was it, you know, the loss of life is, you know, again, it isn't the utmost importance. So the structure itself, I'm sorry for the neighbors who have had to endure that, but realizing that the loss of life was the utmost importance. And that's just, you know, how I will have to leave that. But for the neighborhood going forward, it will be a place that can be remembered for the right reasons. But for the family, respectfully, we had to wait until certain things that they had to go through. She was the matriarch of the family. So with that being said, we all know how that looks. Documentation that she knew where it was, they didn't know, things like that. So it was very unfortunate, but we'll move forward. And thank you again for your time and patience, and we'll do whatever, expediently that we can to make this happen, okay? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. So you-
Thank you, man. Am I needed further, Jim?
No, you were all set.
Thank you all for your volunteer time and also for your vocational time, Jay. Thank you a lot for helping.
No problem, we will be in touch regarding.
You'll be in touch, great, thank you.
Good luck on your baby.
Thank you.
10 days. Okay. Thank y'all.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll just go through the rest of the packet very briefly. So as you may have been aware, May was the National Preservation Month. There was a proclamation that was signed by the mayor and presented to Preservation Burlington this month in concert with the James came to council meeting.
That picture is ugly, I'm sorry. It was not my best one, and I looked in and thought, oh, I should have been more dressed. But it's okay, I'm sorry, that's just me.
James came and presented to both the Ministry Pine Award recipients the plaque, and then the mayor brought up the folks from Preservation Burlington Faith Grant and the other recipients, and everybody had a little photo opportunity. So thank you for that. And then the packet just includes the other minor COAs that have been approved since your last meeting. So that covers it. Just a reminder regarding the training, the ongoing training requirements. Please make sure that you guys are looking at the emails that I sent. We do have an obligation for those who have not attended training in the past. There is an annual obligation to do so.
Jamie, I have a question about the fencing on Glencoe Street. That's actually my neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed in the description or the type of work, it says 4-foot high fence, but in the Glencoe guidelines, it says it needs to be a open picket fence, and that style and color must be approved. Was that stipulated in the COA?
They did go through and got the paperwork from approval from Preservation North Carolina.
Okay.
So that was part of their submission. I don't normally include that in the whole description of what was approved there, but.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
As far as with the training ones, like I know how some of those, opportunity trainings are usually when I'm at work.
Yeah.
But can they be rewatched and then submitted?
Oh, yeah.
But that's some.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I can do that.
Yeah,
That's the only reason why I have, because they've been like, at 2 p.m., 9 a.m.
A lot of, there's definitely virtual training opportunities, and some of them are very interesting, like hearing about old cemeteries. There's some on resiliency. You can go back through prior years too. So since we're getting kind of down to almost the end of the year, I'll send you all a link with the reminder, and all you really need to do is just watch the training video, I think it's one video,
synopsis, I think.
and then just provide a short paragraph to me and CC Christy Riley at the state. That's it.
And I guess with the new standards, they are going to planning and zoning. Is their next step?
Yes, so the standards are going to, will be on the Planning and Zoning Commission agenda for their meeting in June, which is the June 27th. That's going to be a virtual meeting. So they are doing work in this room and upstairs to make and improve audio visual improvements which are needed. So So that meeting will be virtual, and I can send you guys the link if anybody's interested, once it's up and running.
Okay, that's all I had. Did anybody, well, I mean, I will say, so far, I guess we will be eventually, not goodbye, but, you know, temporary. But, you know,
Yeah, I don't know that we can make the July meeting, friends. We'll see.
but I guess if you don't, I mean, for me, good luck, and we're happy for you, and we will see you back. It's not that we're saying you won't be back, but, you know, that's what I'm.
We'll be thinking of you.
Yeah, we will.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Is there anything else? Are we all happy with everything? All right, well, so I guess I need a motion to adjourn.
So good.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
And I think we can all agree, aye, on the record.
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank y'all.
All right, thank you guys.